Ephesians chapter 6, I want us to read verse 18. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert, always keep on praying for all the saints. I was a senior in high school when I first heard Reverend Kenneth E. Hagin explain that there were different kinds of prayers. I was listening in the back room of my grandparents' house on cassette tapes this sermon. Now, the house had no central heating, no air conditioning. On cold days, the back room would get really chilly. And on this chilly day, I heard Kenneth Hagin explain the different kinds of prayer. And those words that he spoke became a revelation that totally warmed my heart. I couldn't even think of the chill that was in that room. I was so on fire with the revelation that he imparted to me through tape-recorded message. And what Kenneth Hagin was explaining in the teaching is that many people make a mistake when it comes to prayer because they think that there's only one type of prayer when in reality there are many different kinds of prayer. Paul says pray with all kinds of prayer. There are so many different types of prayer. And what Brother Hagin explained is that just like sports covers baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and all the others, but all these sports have different rules that govern the sports. You don't take the rules of baseball, he explained, and play it with football. How many of y'all know that would be chaos? You got to have rules that apply only to baseball and rules that apply only to football. And he explained that many people, they don't recognize that there are rules that govern each type of prayer. And there are certain principles that govern certain type of prayer, but what people end up doing is they're taking rules that govern one type of prayer and they're trying to apply it in another type of prayer. And then he explained the most common mistake of all. He said many people look at the prayer in the garden where Jesus prayed to the Father, Father, if it's possible, remove this cup from me, but not my will, thy will be done. And people say, well, you see, when Jesus said, thy will be done, you should make sure that no matter what you're praying for, you should always say, thy will be done, not my will, thy will be done. So if you're praying for an aunt who's sick, ask God to heal, but say, thy will be done. If you need money, don't ask for what money, only ask for it if it's God's will. So make sure you always say, thy will, not my will. And when he said that, he said, unfortunately, that's one type of prayer Jesus prayed. But when he prayed for the sick, he did not use the faith-destroying phrase, if it's your will. In fact, just the opposite. When he prayed for the sick, he was confident it was the will of God. In Matthew chapter 8 is a story of the leper that came down from a mountain. And he came to the Lord and he said to the Lord, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. And what did Jesus say? Well, let's just see if the Lord is willing. I don't know if the Lord is... No, what did Jesus say? Of course I'm willing. Be clean. And Brother Hagin said, Jesus, when he prayed for the sick, he used the prayer of faith to save the sick and to heal them. And when he prayed the prayer of faith, he never once questioned God's will on the matter. He was confident it was always the will of God to heal the sick. Because after all, God is a doctor. How many of y'all know it is always the will of a doctor to heal a person? He doesn't look and say, well, I have medicine to cure you, but it's not my will to use it. Well, he's going to be sued for malpractice. He's going to lose his license if he doesn't practice what he's called for. Well, Jesus is a healer. God is the physician. And who's ever heard of a physician that doesn't want to heal? And yet when Brother Hagin explained that Jesus was praying the prayer of submission, not the prayer of faith, I felt such conviction. Because like so many sincere Christians, I always was using the phrase, Lord, do this if it's your will. How many of y'all know you don't use a baseball bat in football? Sometimes it doesn't work. You got to take it out of the arena. You see, and so you don't use the phrase, if it's your will, in every kind of prayer. Well, why do we pray? We pray for three basic reasons. Number one, we pray to change things. We don't like the sickness, so we pray for healing. We don't like the poverty, we pray for blessing. We're looking to change things, move mountains, difficulties, terrible circumstances in our life. And there are prayers that are used to change things. Then the second reason why we pray is we pray to change ourselves. How many of y'all know sometimes it's not things that need changing? Sometimes we're the ones that need to change, don't we? See? And so there are prayers that change us. And then finally, there is prayer that changes others. Now, isn't it true that some people need help? Some people need change. And so there are prayers that will change other people.